Hail humans and take heed. This is the carrier, Shadow of Intent.
Today we are ranking the albums of Shadow of Intent, starting with Primordial in 2016. The debut full-length from this Connecticut deathcore band originally formed as a Halo-themed project named after a massive Covenant ship from the same series. And as someone who spent a lot of time playing those games back in the day, I even went to the midnight release for 3 in college. This was right up my alley. Nerd! Notably, 5 of these tracks were re-recorded from their 2014 EP Inferi Sententia, and it is also the band's only studio album as a two-piece with programmed drums. But I don't think that at all takes away from the quality of the songs. Right from the top, the prelude to Bereavement sets the tone with incredible riffing, soloing, and atmosphere, followed up quickly by the Black Dahlia Murder sounding hooks of The Shaping Sickness. Really, this entire album is a guitarist's wet dream with a seemingly endless supply of infectious riffing, with Ben Dur already proving himself as a strong vocalist in the genre. The symphonic elements aren't nearly as grand on this one as they would get in the future, but the production is already strong, and really the songwriting thrills me from start to finish. Love the little bass breaks on the all-around impressive and dynamic The Invoking of the Execution of Worlds, and somewhat Archspire-coded The Battle of the Magnot Sphere. Nice feature from former Enterprise, Earth, and Infant Annihilator vocalist Dan Watson on the Cosmic Inquisitor as well. The Didax Will and The Last Bastion also have some very within the ruin sounding riffs and sweeps, and this influence is also all over instrumental The Aftermath in Jot Krula, on par with their Ataxia series. Excellent album, it is going to fantastic. Moving on, we have Reclaimer in 2017. Developing into a full lineup here with Ben and Chris now joined with Federico Zuccarelli on guitar, Keith Kohlhepp, now of Grey Lotus, on bass, and Matt Kowanowski of Oceano on drums. And while this does add to the performances and both the symphonic elements and production feel stepped up, I actually don't find this one quite as consistently engaging for me as the debut. That said, some fabulous moments here, starting with the return, more killer guitar work here once more, complemented further by the simulated strings. I don't care much for the approach to the cleaner vocals on this one, but they're not bad either. And both Dickie Allen of Infant Annihilator and Jason Evans of Ingested make an appearance on The Catacombs. The horror within, funnily enough, is based on the SpongeBob SquarePants episode, The Secret Box.
And prepare for the most unpleasant pillow fight of your life!
Missed opportunity for a sample, if you ask me. But Slaughter to Prevail's Alex Terrible also shows up on The Gathering of All, and Tom Barber of Darko and Chelsea Grin is on one of my personal favorites, The Prophet's Beckoning. Other favorites for me include the instant headbang-worthy The Heretic Prevails and the torrential guitars and piano of The Mausoleum of Liars. The latter is almost worthy of Flesh God Apocalypse, which is a bit of foreshadowing. Another awesome record. It reached number 4 on the iTunes metal chart at the debut, but for the sake of nitpicking my ultimate preferences for these albums from front to back, I am going to put this at great tier. By the way, if you're enjoying the video so far, be sure to hit the like button, helps me out, and also comment below your own rankings, because as always, this is just my opinion, and I'd be interested to hear yours. Where do you agree? Where do you disagree? But moving on, we have Melancholy in 2019. Their first album to not solely focus on Halo themes, instead a concept record focused around a demonic goddess. And considering how far the Halo franchise has fallen at this point, expanding seems like it was a good idea.
AI off.
I'm introducing myself to the rest of the team.
Disappear!
Also, the first album with Francesco Ferrini of Flesh God Apocalypse taking charge on orchestration, and his impact is felt right from the top going into the opening title track, but even more so on possibly my favorite from them in the maniacal Gravesinger. This one goes full Dimmu Borgir in places, especially with those croaky, radio-distorted vocals, as does the more mournful sounding Underneath a Sullen Moon with its soaring dark melodies and dizzying soloing, and the absolutely ripping Embracing Nocturnal Damnation. Then of course there's another instant classic in Barren and Breathless Macrocosm, featuring a top-notch feature from the late great Trevor Strang. Also a big fan of Dirge of the Void, which feels like their own darker twist on Born of Osiris, and some of the vocals on Chthonic Odyssey give me early Suicide Silence vibes, though once more offset by the cleans, killer bass rumble when they break it down too. And ending on a crazy satisfying note with the 1-2 punch of the dreaded Mystic Abyss and Malediction as well. My go-to album from this band. I think it brings together all their best strengths from the previous albums and on a much grander scale. So it is going to perfection. They followed that up with Elegy in 2022. Their first album with drummer Bryce Butler of Contrarian, and I'll just say right from the top that I was probably the only reviewer out there at the time that did not eat this thing up like they and most of the audience did. But starting with the good, The Coming Fire is a really tight track with lots of great, very dynamic drumming, and I love that burn for your leaders part. Very powerful atmosphere too, with kind of a Septic Flesh vibe. Where Millions Have Come to Die is another fine track with the synths and that little cyclical hook, but then of course you've also got the guest vocals from Whitechapel's Phil Bozeman. And speaking of guest spots, we also have Chuck Billy of Testament on Blood in the Sands of Time. This is a big chuggy number with some Middle Eastern energy and backing strings. From Ruin We Rise also has some of that Dimmu Borgir and Cradle of Filth energy in its instrumentation. Even if it's not one of my top picks, Francesco once more bringing his A game. But Intensified Genocide is easily my favorite track on the album. Just a super heavy and very enjoyable composition thanks to a lot of pace changes and texturing, very infectious grooves, and I love these start-stop moments towards the middle. Furthermore, this is one of the few songs where I feel like the vocals are actually as strong as on the previous efforts. That Into the Furnace, Into the Hole part is just pure hype. Man, that hits so good. Unfortunately, there are also some places, though, where this album falls short for me. I find the opener to be pretty underwhelming, not bad by any means, just kind of generic and not quite meeting the bar set by the previous material. Saurian King is in that same boat for me. It's a solid kind of mid-B tier track, even with a few great moments on the piano especially. Life of Exile, I honestly find pretty boring, and while I give Of Fury credit for its brainwormy, bouncy little guitar hook, damn does it end up sounding kind of corny to me. As for the titular three-parter, it's fine. I just feel like turning this into an epic multi-part suite sets expectations much higher than what is actually delivered. I can say that part 2 is excellent though. The bass part is pretty enthralling, sometimes going for kind of a hypnotic Tool energy, others getting some fun, faster little solo moments, and there are some great guitar hooks that actually stick out for me, and a few other fun flourishes like the sudden cascade of piano in its early moments. After that, though, I don't feel like I needed the 6 minutes that followed with part 3. It just comes off as kind of superfluous to me. There's epic, and then there's trying too hard to be epic, and I feel like this swings further towards the latter. It all just feels a little too polished.
It insists upon itself, Lois.
So as it stands, as a whole, I obviously have some pretty mixed feelings about Elegy. There are some real high points, but also a lot of middling ones that pull my rating down overall, so I'm going to put this thing at good, and I am aware that is going to be a very unpopular opinion. Probably easily the worst one on here. So again, down in the comments, let me know why you disagree. If you are one of the people that say this belongs at perfection, share why. But that brings us to Imperium Delirium in 2025. Now, going into this one, I was feeling pretty good after hearing singles like Flying the Black Flag alongside opener Prepare to Die. It really kicks things off on a strong note with colossal atmosphere paired perfectly with some seriously earworm moments right from the get-go. These are the riffs that I was looking for, and Ben is absolutely killing it in the vocal department. Again, the cadence, the variation in approach, the interplay with the instrumentation, just top-notch. It's a lot of what I felt like I was missing on the previous one. Again, even going back to re-listen to that one years later for this list, it didn't stand up. So when I started hearing these singles and they got me excited again, that was double Agent Cooper thumbs up for me. And this quality very much continues into the raging infinity of horrors, uniting more killer riffs with some powerful orchestration as well. More of both of those on the facets of propaganda and the vehement Credonian vengeance, that is a hard one to say, which became early favorites of mine. So much melodrama, but with plenty of tasty treats along the way, and even some more electronic sounding synths that call back to their earlier works. Loving the melody on They Murdered Sleep and No Matter the Cost. These tracks feel like they play on a lot of the same framework that Lorna Shore does, except in a much more focused form at half the length for double the impact. And on a related note, another killer single on all levels in Mechanical Chaos, and thanks to this band not over-relying on breakdowns in every damn song like some people out there, that makes this one just hit so much harder as a result, and the other few ones on the record. More solid use of melodic elements on Beholding the Sickness of Civilization, more highly infectious guitar work, bass and piano on instrumental Apocalypse Canvas, and strong closer in the 7.5-minute title track too, getting some more notes of Lorna Shore on that one as well, but once more I'd argue just done more effectively. And then of course we also need to mention Feeding the Meat Grinder, featuring the one and only Corpse Grinder on guest vocals. A Shadow of Intent Cannibal Corpse collab is just as heavy as you'd think it would be, and it is glorious to behold. So my overall feeling with this one, both listening to the initial singles and then going through the album multiple times, was that this feels like a return to form of the direction of the previous albums, or at least the elements that were lacking for me on Elegy. The riffs are extremely hooky, and the memorable vocal lines have returned in spades, and all captured in an arguably even more massive way thanks to lessons learned in the production territory over time. I really enjoy it. I don't love it as much as Melancholy, but I love it enough to put it up at fantastic, maybe even at second place. Y'all check out this playlist for plenty more Deathcore rankings, or this for your personal YouTube recommendation. But that'll do it for now. Flight of Icarus signing off. I will see you in the trenches.